Hi, and welcome back to Manage Your MTG Draft. In this episode, we're going to do a short, quick first impressions of Tarkir Dragonstorm Draft. We talked a little bit about Jeskai as well in our worst cards episode, so take a look at that episode if you haven't seen it, and we'll probably elaborate a bit on that in this episode. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's dive in. Yeah, so talking a little bit about Jeskai, one of the interesting things that I have found, I recently played a mobilized deck, and I played a Jeskai mobilized deck instead of a Mardu mobilized deck. And wasn't really Jeskai, it was red white, it was Boros, and then I splashed blue. And I splashed blue particularly for card advantage enablers, right? Draw cards, the ability to kind of draw 2, discard 1, draw 3, discard 1, and then, basically, use that to continue to fuel my ability to build a wide board and then just continually swing in and hit my opponent. And it worked really well. The deck didn't trophy. I went 5-3 with it, but it did do a lot. But that 5-3 was mostly because of, I think, my mana base largely. There were a couple of games where I really just kind of got screwed. And part of that was because I started drafting and ended up picking a black card up here and there, but I realized that Mardu wasn't really working for me, and I had drafted a couple of lands to go along with that. So when I switched into Jeskai, I didn't really have enablers for mana. So I was kind of like sometimes lacking a blue, or I think one game I was even lacking a red source, and I was like, okay, this is that really hampered me. But I do think that that's an interesting approach on Jeskai that kind of gets to the real tension there. Like Jeskai is controlling on paper, but I was able to really make it work in a fairly aggressive deck by just basically taking the best parts of Boros and then throwing on Roiling Dragonstorm, right? That it's a B card, and in Jeskai it's a B plus. Two mana, draw 2, discard a card. I'm discarding a land usually in that case, and just getting 2 more actionable cards. What was the other card that really did a lot for me here? Focus the Mind was the other one. Being able to cast a cheap spell and then for 3 mana, essentially draw 3 and discard 1, right? That just kind of kept fueling it to the point where I could just, you know, continually attack in, generally trade fairly horribly, but just get enough damage with mobilize and a wide board to like finish off my opponent. So it was a really interesting draft because I think it was a really different use case for Jeskai.
I do think of those as two separate decks, right? Like one's aggro, one's control, so they definitely are two separate decks. I really think of the aggro one as red white,
Right.
and has some blue, and I have yet to do that myself, so that's why I was interested in hearing that take. Because I was looking at the Jeskai numbers the other day, and it's interesting that white and blue were the most prevalent. Maybe I can share my screen. We see here that white and blue are the most prevalent. Maybe let me filter down to commons and uncommons to kind of see what you can expect to get. Yeah, white and blue are the most prevalent, but you're not going to play a white-blue based deck, right? You're going to play either white-red or blue-red. And I think those are the two versions of the deck, white-red being your aggro and blue-red being your control. And for the most part, I saw most of these cards were more controlling based, but it might just be that Jeskai is like 2/3 of the time you're blue red and playing Jeskai control, and
Yeah.
1/3 of the time you are white red aggro with a small blue splash for certain card advantage cards.
Yeah. And I think that, going back to our video that on worst cards, I think that kind of speaks to why some of these Jeskai cards didn't end up very good, right? So for example, we one of the cards that was highlighted in Jeskai was the Monastery Messenger, right? That doesn't really fit into either of those formats very well. So it doesn't work. Now there are other cards in Jeskai that are actually really good. One to highlight would be Jeskai Shrine Keeper, which is it's like 2 colorless. It's a dragon, 2 colorless, blue, red, white for a 3/3 flying haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Right. So like that's the kind of thing that I think it fits better in probably the slower Jeskai deck, but it can also be top end in your more aggressive red white based Jeskai deck, because that's the kind of thing that can get in that extra little bit of damage at the end and then keep your card advantage going, to keep drawing more gas to do more mobilize and things like that. So it worked for me. Like again, it wasn't a trophy deck, but I feel like it did well enough to talk about that. It's an interesting way of looking at Jeskai in this set.
I will say for the Jeskai control, I guess I like to be a little more controlling because there are, I'd say, more control cards in your blue and red. And even with white, like, again, you'd be more splashing white in these decks, but the Osseous Exhale, the white Exhale, is overall a better controlling card, as when they attack into you, you can just kill their creature. It works still sort of in white red. In fact, I'm running in my
Yeah.
Mardu deck right now because I want to be able to kill their big creatures when they block. It does suck that the damage doesn't get through, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the downside of that card. But it can work
But it
in
helps
both.
protect your mobilized
Yeah.
creatures that you have to attack with, but then you know that they're going to prioritize to take like to block with their big creature and kill.
Especially
And so
the Dolvin Pack Beast, the 0/4 vigilance creature. You
yes,
really that's a great one to protect.
yeah, absolutely. And so there are plenty of creatures that you want to protect there, and that helps with it. So one last thing about Jeskai that's really interesting is that the top card in the format right now is actually a Jeskai card, Jeskai Revelation, which it's just, I mean, I think it's the top card because it's a card that just will, it's over 70% win rate as of, when we're making this video, for game in hand or win rate. So, I mean, I think that it's just an insane card. I mean, it costs 7, but returning target spell or permanent to its owner's hand, dealing 4 damage to any target, creating 2/1/1 white monk creatures with prowess, and drawing 2 cards and gaining 4 life, all in one card is just an insane card. It's a mythic, so you're not going to see it very often, but it's interesting to note that Jeskai like just has the best overall card in the format right now.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a card with so many sentences in one card.
Right, I don't think I've seen a single card that does so many things on the board in one card either. So it's an interesting card. I mean, obviously, its cost means it's a very much end the game style card, but you get to return their best creature to their hand. Deal
it's
4, gain 4,
it's almost
create
a
2.
7 for one.
Right,
I'm
right.
exaggerating, but yeah, you
Yeah,
get 7 different things out of it.
yeah. And so that's it's a pretty crazy card. So that just want to highlight how crazy that card is. I mean, if you see it, it's probably worthy of a pack one pick one if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good segue into Temur as well, because currently some of the best cards in the format are also Temur. I mean, they're all rares and mythics generally, but they are a lot of times game enders, and I think that speaks to one of the reasons that, again, as of the point where we're making this video, Temur is one of the best clans in the format, and I think it's because of its flexibility. It has green, it has blue, it has the ability to kind of like find the mana base that you need, just pick good cards, and it helps that a lot of the bombs in Temur are really good cards, like Ureni, the Song and Ending, a 10/10 creature. I mean, it cost 8, but with all the ramp and abilities that you have in Temur, it's not uncastable. Um, but also cards like Dragonback Assault, right? Basically a board wipe for 6, and then, well, not quite a board wipe in some cases, but it's going to blow up a lot of smaller creatures, and then you get a 4/4 every time you play a land. Um, Roar of the Endless Song, just an excellent card for 5 mana as a saga. You get 2/5/5 elephants, and then you double the power and toughness of every creature you have on the final ability of it. These are all like game ending cards in a lot of cases. So I think that's one of the reasons I think we're seeing Teamer do so well. Plus, just its flexibility to, you can run a 5 color. I mean, it's not Teamer if you run 5 colors, but you can run a Teamer based deck or even just a blue green based deck and play 4 or 5 colors, and just pick good cards.
And I do think that's the way you want to do it. I think you want to play it blue green based in order to get access to the rest. And if you see like the commons and uncommons, the green and blue depth is really high, whereas
Yeah.
the red is less. So I'd rather play blue green than blue red. Just in general, I do think the blue green decks are the best decks. Well, that I do like Mardu a lot as well, but overall, if I had to pick a deck to go into, it would be a blue green deck with preferably Teamer, but maybe even splash some white in there as well. Maybe splash some black. The card I have been able to play recently that you didn't mention, and that was it's just a blue card, but Meringue River Regent. Have you had the chance to play that or play against it?
I have not yet. I see it. It's a really good card, and I'm just waiting for the opportunity to actually get it right.
Yeah.
Um,
So I was able to first pick this in a few drafts ago. I ended up getting into Jeskai with it, but yeah, 6/7 flyer that when it enters, return two other non-land permanents to their owner's hands. So it's such a tempo swing to clear their board basically and get this 6/7 for six flying down. I haven't actually cast the draw three cards then discard a card yet, but um, I'm okay with that because the creature is. But
yeah,
both sides are
I,
powerful, but the creature is what you'd rather play.
yeah. I think if you start with this in your opening hand, there's an okay chance you play
Yeah.
Coil and catch
Yeah.
the Omen on it. But unless you're really hurting for for lands, or you're under a lot of pressure and you need to, refill your hand to play cards, you wait for the 6 drop on this. And because it's like you said, such a tempo swing to be able to play one that's a huge flyer, returning two of their cards to their hands, and then being able to use that. Now, although I will say there are use cases where I might return one of my own cards
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
if I've got a really good ETB effect that's great. I might choose to do that.
I returned a stasis snare that was just hanging around that didn't actually, it didn't have anything else exiled with it. I forget exactly what the setup was there, but yeah, I've returned one of my own permanents so I can get rid of another permanent type of thing. Yeah, it's a good thing to do. I will mention in that draft, it was interesting. I first picked this, and then I did force blue, which was fine. I do think I would have ended up in a better deck had I read the signals. And I read it, and I just ignored the signals of going into Mardu. And so that's an interesting thing is I am noticing the multicolored decks people are catching on quicker than I had anticipated. So the first couple of days, I could play any rare and
Yeah.
get all the fixing for it. And I expected that to last for multiple weeks. I don't know if it's the particular seats I'm in, if I'm just happen to be next to players that are doing the same thing, or
Hmm.
how prevalent it is that people are doing the multicolor good stuff and taking fixing more highly. Have they listened to the content creators out there and started mimicking what we have been doing or not?
Sure.
Um, so I've noticed, yeah, I've been able to get into them less, and if I knew that was the case when I was drafting my deck, I would have switched into Mardu since I saw that was open. And
Yeah.
I do think it's correct to do so when you see a clear signal, pivot off your bombs. Although sometimes it's tough. Like I didn't know the next time I'd see Meringue, right? Like I'm like, darn it, I'm playing it. But if I wanted to win, it probably would have been right to pivot. And I'm curious what you're seeing in your seats, Matt.
So before we dive into that, now's a good time to remind you to like and subscribe if you like our content. We're getting very close to 1,000 subscribers. We're hoping to hit it in the middle of Tarkir Dragonstorm here. So please, if you're enjoying our content, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, so that you can see when the next video comes out. Yeah, I think that's largely rung true for me as well. Actually, my first draft, I was like trying to force myself multicolored good stuff because I really wanted to, like, I really do think that this set, if you can get the right fixing, is not quite as good as Pioneer Masters at being able to do like an actually truly amazing 5 color deck, but it's close, right? And you can get there. There's enough fixing. There's enough ways to get the basic lands you need to where you can run like just one copy of a plains or one copy of a swamp or whatever, and have like a primarily green blue based deck. Where you can make that work. Yeah, I've tried it and I want to continue to try it, but I do think that people are prioritizing that more now, and it's getting harder. Like there are times where I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna wheel that Tri-land because the signals I've gotten is nobody's in this color, like this clan did not wheel, right?" And so, I think my first draft, I got like 3 or 4 Tri-lands actually, and like because I was like, they just kept coming, and I was like, I'm gonna take that try. Like it was actually like in my first 7 cards, I think I picked 3 or 4 lands. It worked out pretty well, actually. I think that if you can do that, and you can then, just take some lands and then, pick the best cards in every pack that go in those colors. It's not a terrible strategy, especially as people start recognizing that you can do that. Similar to like what you could do in Pioneer Masters and just take gates for the first 5 or 6 picks,
Yeah.
right? Um,
I think a lot of players skipped Pioneer Masters because it wasn't in paper,
yeah,
and it's clear in the numbers of content creators and views, like Pioneer Masters was not
right,
getting attention. People weren't playing it, so I think a lot of people have never been exposed to a set like this where you can go 5 colors is viable, and now they are starting to recognize, oh, the fixing is good. I should be picking that over something. Don't get me wrong. This set, you can do a lot of different things. You can
right.
just draft the fixing straight up. I don't prefer that. I don't think that's the right way to go. I'd rather draft the bombs first, then the fixing. But, if the multicolor good stuff, if people are getting into that more, it might start becoming correct to skip a 3-color bomb in some cases because you need to play less. You're going to get less fixing,
Yeah.
and you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. You want to stay open. So I'm interested to see the metagame and how it shifts over time here. Does it become correct to do the strategy of take a 2-color card, right? Because that's open enough for you, but now the 3-color cards early type of thing.
Well, so my theory on this is take your fixing in pack 1, and then pack 2 and 3, you can just take all the 3-color
Yeah.
bombs, right? Because you'll probably get 2 or 3 3-color bombs in pack 2, like because people may not have settled on a 3-color, archetype yet. They might have 2 that they're considering, and so you'll get past a couple. In pack 2, pack 1, people will pick bombs, so you won't get those as much. But if you can take the fixing early, you can then open yourself up for packs 2 and 3 to just take any bomb that comes your way. And I think, to me, that's what I'm trying to lean into a little bit more, because it feels like a crappy strategy, because you look at your like card collection at the end of pack 1, and you're like, I've got 6 lands and nothing super good here. But then you realize, like, the payoff comes in pack 2 and 3, where you're just able to take whatever comes your way that's just got a 60+% win rate on it, and you're not even worried, right? Because you have the mana base to play it.
Yeah, I hear that. It's a little tough to bet that the good stuff. I it's about how often does the good stuff come your way. Like, are the in pack 3 is the person to your right, are the bombs that they open ones that they can also play, right? Just because it
Sometimes,
happens to
yeah,
be in their
sometimes,
colors,
but
and so will you end up with the good stuff? Now there are enough, like when we looked at the multicolored good cards. Like, this table is all A's and multicolor and B pluses and B's, and
yeah,
it's not really till you get down to B's or B minuses that the single color cards start coming up, right? So there's enough multicolor good cards that hopefully some should come your way in packs 2 and packs 3, like you said.
absolutely,
Um,
yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing that it's a risky bet, right? It's a
yeah,
risky bet to do, and if it doesn't pay off, you're probably ending up with a fairly subpar deck. But I think there's enough support in it that you can absolutely do it, and you'll get something. It may not be exactly what you want, but you kind of got to leave yourself open. Take fixing. I mean, cards like Sagu Wildling, like, I'll pack 1, pick 1 that.
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's that good, right? It will always pay off for you. I mean, unless you end up not in green, but at that point, you've now picked a card that allows you to go in almost any direction you want. And the tri lands, similarly, if you see them, they're good. So, I mean, you don't have to do that every draft, and I don't do that every draft. But if I open like a subpar rare and there's a tri-land in there, I'll absolutely take that. Pack 1, pick 1. Or there's a Sagu Wildling in there, I'll absolutely take that.
I think I'd be willing to take Sagu Wildling first pick over a monument because it is green and open to so much more. Whereas the monuments, you really do want to make sure that you are in that clan in order to play them. I'm not saying I wouldn't ever first pick a monument in a horrible pack, but
Right.
just kind of giving the order there of I like the monuments more than I like Sagu Wildling when you know you're in that clan, but when you don't, I like Sagu Wildling more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still on the take the bombs path early and then fixing like immediately after that and removal. But I do think that I might shift that plan as more and more people are taking fixing higher. You may have to be the first one to blink in that of like, like just I'm going to take fixing above you, even though you're taking all the bombs, and then you're not going to get the fixing kind of a thing. That might be the way to go in the following weeks here.
Right. I think the other case for taking fixing is if you end up with like the vast majority of fixing in your pod, you make it harder for people to take the bombs in pack 2 and
Yeah.
3 because they haven't gotten the support for it and they're like, "Do I really want to take this 3-color bomb because I don't really have the mana base to support it over like a 2-color or even a monocolored card that's not as good obviously, but I know I'm going to be able to play." So I think to me that's the other case. It was like with gates, right? If you got enough of the gates in Pioneer Masters, pack 2 and 3, anything that any of the cards like the Gatebreaker Ram or the flying Gateway Angel or something like that, like if you got those, were just your free cards for you because no one else was going to take them because no one else had the mana base or the gates to support it. And so it was kind of like a whoever blinks first type situation because like if you didn't take the gates, somebody else was going to do that. So, and even if you did, the person at the opposite end of the pod might be doing the same thing, and then pick 5 and later you got 0 gates. It's certainly a strategy, and it's one that works, and I think it probably works here too. But we'll have to see how the meta shifts over the next few weeks. So that was some of our initial impressions of Tarkir Dragonstorm. Set's still fairly new. As always, there's going to be some shifts in the meta. We're going to kind of stay on top of that. We'll probably be doing kind of a deep dive into a draft coming up here at some point soon to kind of, walk through some of the things we talked about in terms of, well, what do you pick first, fixing or bombs? We'll kind of see where the meta is on at that, when we get to that, but it'll be interesting to kind of dive into. So we hope you like it. If you've got, please share your thoughts with us down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get notified when our next video comes out. See you all in the next one.
See you in the next one.